Tens que ir, Samita. Tens que ir. Vai. Eu sempre sonhei ter uma escola de artes performativas. Uma escola de todos para todos. E estive a um passo de o conseguir. Contas.
Alhamdulillahi Rabbil Alamin Rahman Rahim Maliki Yawmiddin Alhamdulillah Alhamdulillahi Rabbil Alamin Rahman Rahim Maliki Yawmiddin Alhamdulillah. Posso? Tudo bem?
Tudo mais ou menos bem. E onde estão os seus estudantes?
Não, nenhum me passou hoje. Desculpe.
De quem é a culpa? Minha? Não, eu pago todos os meses. Todos os meses recebes o teu salário. Estudantes. No Paquistão tens talento. Aqui, se calhar tens de voltar para o Paquistão.
Não quero mais trabalhar no sítio esse como assim.
Boa viagem para a tua terra.
Essas coisas só não acontecem a mim.
Onde é que está o professor desta sala?
Eu sou a professora.
Tu, professora, não. Onde é que está o homem desta sala? Onde é que está o professor, o líder desta sala?
Machista.
Tu nem sabes dançar. Sabes que mais? Não te quero ver mais nesta escola.
No dia em que eu morrer, não me levem para perto de Deus nem do diabo. Apenas entreguem...
Luís, como é que vão essas aulas? Suas aulas de teatro?
Vão bem.
Vão bem uma ova. Tu já passaste do prazo. Tu de ator não tens nada. Não tens nada. Sabes o que é que tu és? Tu és uma farsa. Sabes o que é que tu és mesmo, na minha opinião? Tu és só um mariconso. É isso que tu és. É isso que tu és.
É isso que tu pensas de mim?
É.
Eu para ti, agora não passo mais de um mariconso. Sou apenas um mariconso para ti.
É isso.
Sabes o que eu tenho para te dizer? Tu vais acabar sozinho e acabaste de afundar esta escola.
Samita, preciso falar contigo.
Para ti, aqui, eu sou Samita Costa, a professora de pole dance desta escola. Lá fora é outra coisa.
Samita.
Eu vou ter um espetáculo no fim deste mês. Por favor, se tu sai por aquela porta. Eu vou ensaiar.
Não vais, Samita. Desculpa. Não vai acontecer. Está tudo acabado. Não vai acontecer. O show não vai acontecer. Quem vai embora és tu.
Eu? Eu é que vou sair?
Sim, tu vais sair.
És infiltrado. Já vou estar.
Bom dia, Vitória.
Bom dia.
Estás tão bonita hoje. Chegaste tarde, claro, como sempre. Estás muito bonita hoje.
Obrigada.
Então, o que é que estás a ver? Onde é que vamos almoçar hoje?
Não, obrigada.
Não falas com o chefe assim. Eu tenho a certeza que tens tempo. Vá lá, não te custa nada. Não te custa nada. Não te custa nada.
Idioto Dráculo, impida, mata, tem Dráculos da terra.
Somos do tamanho dos nossos sonhos. Eu sonhei e voei alto, ao lado destes que hoje partiram. E sei que o queriam tão real quanto eu. Se o meu sonho hoje morreu, antes quero que me vejam como o causador da ruína. Mas que nunca nenhum deles deixe de correr atrás do seu próprio sonho. Hoje vesti a pele de um homem que nunca fui. Assediei e fui xenófobo, homofóbico, sexista, tudo aquilo que eu mais repudio. Se somos do tamanho dos nossos sonhos, apenas me resta saber: terá sido o meu sonho grande demais para mim? Ou terei sido eu pequeno demais para ele?
We watched the film O Derradeiro Passo, and thank you everybody for joining us. And we're celebrating the 3rd anniversary of the film, along with the 11th anniversary of the Center for Media and Celebrity Studies, on behalf of which I am speaking. Please hold on to all your reflections, your questions, your thoughts till the end of the next film that we're about to watch. But first, I would love everybody to introduce themselves. Please introduce yourselves. What's your name? Which city you're logging in from? And tell us something that you are celebrating today. So we'll start with Hussene, who's the director of the 2 films we're watching today. Hussene?
So my name's Hussein, or as written on the screen, is Christoph, which is my stage name. And I'm the director of both these films, and I'm based in Lisbon. And I think here in Lisbon I've made perhaps over 30 short films, and I think the last one which you saw is definitely one of my favorites. Just an amazing film.
Thank you, Hussein. Next, who would like to go? Alfredo?
Hello, my name is Alfredo Paixao. I'm in Lisbon now. I performed several roles in 3 films directed by Hussene. I like it very much. I like to work with him and the team, the persons that work with me in this kind of films. I knew this one. It's an amazing film, and it's linked with the problems that arts pass through the pandemic, and it really shows the problems for artists in that situation.
Yes, thank you. Thank you, Alfredo. We're going to talk about that in a little while. Bob, do you want to introduce yourself next?
Sure. My name is Bob Tapper, and I am an actor, filmmaker, and a traveler. So I'm in Istanbul, Turkey right now. And just doing more traveling right now than I am doing acting or anything else. That's just kind of how my life pans out. But I don't know. I'm just very thankful to be able to stay connected to this group, and so it's nice when I watch this, and I know so many of the people that are in it, and it's just really fun. And I really am glad to be connected to the group. And thank you, Samita, for inviting me.
Yeah, it's an honor, and Bob is coming back to Lisbon, and I will be coming back to Lisbon. So we're all going to see each other very soon in person. Anna, do you want to introduce yourself?
Hi, thank you for the invitation, Samita. I'm from Covilhã, Portugal, and I'm a proofreader and occasional translator, and I'm a film lover, so I'm here to celebrate your films and your art. And I have a big passion for art in general, and I'm glad to see what your work and celebrate with you these achievements. So, thank you.
Thank you. And I would like to add, Anna is also a PhD on art, design, illustration. She has a background in art history. And that's also from Lisbon, I believe, right, Anna? Yeah, so very honored and privileged to have everybody here. My name is Samita Nandy. I'm from the Center for Media and Celebrity Studies. I'm the director there, and I'm honored and privileged to be able to perform in the two films we're watching today. We're going to take more questions and reflections after the end of the next film. So please bear with us. We'll hop onto the next film and then we'll speak. The next film is Windows. There are two versions of this film. One is English, one is Bengali. And the Bengali version received over 9,000 views. Today we're watching the English version. So feel free to follow the subtitles if you want. You don't have to, I guess, but there are subtitles there too.
Sometimes things don't turn out as we expect. Should that affect our self-esteem? There is always opportunity. Opportunity which might lead to something special. So it's important to always be ready. Never allowing previous failures to prevent us from attempting to reach for future successes. Never losing belief in who we are and for what we deserve. We never know when that opportunity is going to come. But come it will. So we'll have that smiling face ready and be open to all windows of opportunity.
So we just watched Windows, which also Hussene directed. Hussene, any thoughts on Windows? Do you want to talk about it briefly as the sequel also now?
Yeah, I think it's I think in terms of the scenes and the camera angles, it's completely different from the first film. I think this one has much more, the angles, they're much more profound and they really build up the character. Whereas the first film there's a lot of different characters in and it's like more around the story. And it all ties into a sort of trilogy, you know, of the films, because we have this one here, Windows, which is Amrita, and then we have another film coming out, and then we have the third film. So it's possibly the same character in all three of them. And I think just like between seeing these two films, which we've just seen now, they are completely different, but they both have some very strong messages within those two films. I'll let everyone else speak, but I think it's just, wow, two amazing films with two great messages and themes behind those two films.
Yeah, I was thinking about the same. I'll let Alfredo speak a little bit because he has to leave. Alfredo, any initial impression, thought? How did you feel watching both the films back to back?
Okay, as Hussein said, they are very different films. This is a more intimate situation between the movement, and also a moment that we rest and you think about life, how you can be prepared for life. As all the films that I know from Hussein, they are also stories with a message, and this one it's also a story with a message, and it's an amazing story too. Another question. I am seeing here Bob, and I remember that Bob worked also in a movie that I collaborate also as an actor, and he did the sound. It's the Cold Wallet. Did you remember Bob?
With Ivo.
Steinoff.
Ivo, yes. In fact, I just texted him not too long ago. I know he's coming back to Lisbon, I think, or into Portugal at the end of October for the winter. So, but yes, I remember you very well. You and Frankie and Gabriella.
Okay. Yes. Okay. So for the moment, I say also I can say about this. Okay. I'm preparing
I
to
will
see
be
more.
waiting to hear
This
about.
one I didn't know. The first one I saw it before. It is when it's the first time, and it's I can recognize it as a Hussein film too. It's in the same. It's different, but at the same time there is something that it has his mark also.
Thank you, Alfredo. Bob, you were one of the first friends that watched the Bengali version of the second film, and today we watched the English version. And I was very appreciative of the way you immediately, you shared your impressions, your thoughts on the film. How do you feel watching it today in English along with the Portuguese film, which happens to be the prequel of this film right now?
So I don't see any differences. So my English is not perfect, but I understand enough well English. So I can hear it in English or in Portuguese. For me, it's quite the same. I don't quite notice the differences in reality.
Okay, Bob?
Yeah, it's always a little bit, it's a completely different experience when it's not in your language and you have to read the subtitles. So I appreciate it a lot more when I can hear it in English. But that was kind of something I wanted to pose to Hussein is, do you think about the audience and do you film them with a Portuguese audience in mind, with English? I guess I'm curious how you approach your films. Which, I mean, as you know, Hussein, I mean, I've done a lot of work with you, and all of your films get you to think. They're always very thoughtful, which is what I really appreciate about all of your work. Is that there's always a subject matter to it that you always have to kind of think about what's going on, and it's just a beautiful experience. To whether you're talking about dreams or talking about being let down and so forth, there's always just a nice thoughtfulness to your work, which is something that I've always really appreciated. But it's my question to you is it difficult, given that you have different audiences and so forth, is it difficult for you to decide what language you need to put it out in, or how do you process that when you do your films?
Well, I think I'm very functional. I was just having a WhatsApp chat with David Kong. None of you know him, but he was the person with whom I started this film process. And after he left, and then I continued with other actors. And he was putting out the option to me of making an LGBT film. And so he's saying, oh, let's write something. And I was saying, the issue is not about writing. The issue is not the storyline. The issue is the actors and the participants. So when choosing the language, it's more of a functional decision. So usually with the films that I've made, it's when we decide to have a group film, I sort of invite 10 people, and then usually it's 4 people who are sick or food poisoning or whatever, or late or whatever. So usually 6 people turn up. And with those 6 people, I got to decide, okay, who can speak English well enough to make an English film? Or who can speak Portuguese well enough to make a Portuguese film? Or let's just go with what we have. I think the main thing which I always do is let people be themselves, rather than like playing a different role which is completely different from who they are, because that will just come off as fake. So I think usually when people are playing a role with whom they're comfortable in the language, they're comfortable being that person, and then the rest of it we can just adapt. Like, for example, we are filming in Portugal. We have Portuguese actors. Why do they have to speak English? They don't have to unless they want to. Okay, so this is the film. We are in Portugal. we have Portuguese actors, we have foreigners who are here as well. So it's very realistic. So I don't think there's like a conscious decision about the people who are going to watch the film. I think it's more about, okay, this is who we are. This is our team. We are like a multinational team, and this is how we're doing it. And I think the audience can adapt. I think this last film, which we did with Samita, it's an amazing film. And I think one of the reasoning behind doing it in 2 languages is because I love doing films in native languages rather than always in English. And just to hear like Samita speaking Bengali, it was just an amazing experience. And when I watch films, I like to watch films in a native language, in a different language. And I think that's something which gives the capacity when you're doing it like a film like that, if with a voiceover, you can have it for an English audience, like we did for this one here, and we can have it for a Bengali audience as well. So I think the one thing good about a voiceover is you can adapt. And we made amazing with Marco as well, which was the same concept. It was a 1-person film, also in Serbian, with English subtitles and also English. And both of these films and Windows, they're just amazing. So to answer the question in a sentence, sometimes it's not with like the audience in mind. It's more about a representation of what we have at our disposal and what we can do with that.
Yeah, thank you, Hussene. And what's coming very strong to me is functionality, as you said, and as a result of that, also authenticity. How realistic can you be with what you have? And it's a very practical decision, to be authentic. So that's really powerful. Anna, you do a lot of interpretation and translation. And how do you feel about, with, dealing with different languages?
I don't do translation all the time. It's more proofreading, but I have to lead with different languages. Yes, when I proofread translated books, for example. In this case, first of all, these are 2 different short films with strong vibes and strong messages. The first more verbal, the second more corporal, more with the body expression, the facial expression. And I like very much the Windows short film because the language of the body is also very important, and I think it's a strong element in the film. And actually, I watched the first time I watched Windows. I watched you speaking Bengali, Samita, and as it was said here, it's different. I noticed that I felt that listening in Bengali and now listening in English, it's it is something. It brings something different, and that feeling of listen in a native language or one of the language that you speak, Samita, and a language that I don't know, that I don't understand, but even if I had the translation written, I think I could get the point of the whole film because it is very expressive. It's very expressive, but obviously, being Bengali, so different language from the West language. Sure, subtitles in English help, but it's different, and it is. And what Hussene said about making films in native language, it moves me. I think it's very important, and it's kind of an act of respect for backgrounds, for multicultural backgrounds. And I think it's when you have a group of people, of with coming from different countries, different backgrounds, and trying to make a movie with the language and the cultures that everyone carries with each other. I think probably it's more complex, but it enrich the film, and I think that gets very, very well, and I think it works perfectly. So thank you. I speak too much.
No, you made me think. Actually, Windows was the first film in which I got to speak in Bengali. I have done a lot of scene work in Hindi last year, which is another language I can speak. But Bengali was the only language I spoke for Husseine's film, and that was the one film that I did. And it was a very interesting process because yes, it is my mother tongue, but I don't necessarily have to professionally perform in that language. I mostly do in English. These days I speak Hindi more in India. So it made me very conscious of the word choices, and I actually myself had to do some translations because in this case, literal translation is very important. But whether you speak the language or not, what's coming out of Anna's thought is I believe it's contextual. So even if you don't get to literally understand the language, you're doing literal translations, but interpretation is something also very important, which is not necessarily related to words. And you do get a sense of contextual backgrounds, and there are a lot of nuances and subtleties. And as I started to curate a lot of international films with subtitles for my film festival here, which is also in Lisbon, I realized the value of considering multiple contexts and the subtleties and nuances that come with it. So I'm very glad that all these films make us reconsider normative ways of thinking and practicing and representing. I think it's very authentic to speak in your dominant language, which happens to be English for many of us. But if there's an opportunity to, view or speak in another language, it's something beautiful to consider, which, a lot of times we don't think of. So thank you, Hussein, for, considering that and to make that a possibility. So yeah, so that's what comes to me. The other point I thought, when I watched the two films today back to back is how different they are in stories. I think there are overlapping contexts, but the main difference was the first one was more about social justice issues. We're raising a lot of ethical issues through the main character. So it's very much about social constructions, while the second one, Windows, was more personal. It was individualistic. It was more about, being motivated, being inspired, which is also very important to fight off certain social justice issues that we face in everyday life. In that particular case, it was very personal. But those are the main two differences, and I feel they sort of, they do relate to each other, right? I mean, we're not totally isolated, in our individuality. We do function in relation to different, social categories, right? So those were my initial impressions, and, how do you deal with that? How do you express that through, literal language and also, embodied interpretations. So Bob did a really helpful improv exercise long time ago. That was very interesting. Do you see the relevance of doing a lot of improv, which is one of the main techniques we use in our films, actually, in all the films?
Yeah, I really well. First of all, in the first film, lead character guy was really clearly not a nice guy, or his character was not nice. So, when he basically was mean to each of the characters, but that got your point across, is what you were saying, Samita, was, dealing with all the different social issues that was brought up. Um, on the positive side of that first film, I appreciated that we got to see the talent. We got to see the dancing. We got to see the little pole work. We got to see the guy playing the guitar. It's like, what a talented group that was. That came across to me. They're a very talented bunch. So, yeah, I thought that was very clear that you were bringing up the social justice issues, and I think it was done very effectively, and so I really appreciated that. The second film, I think I mentioned, Samita, in my comment. Well, first of all, I mean, your beauty was captured. I mean, there was no doubt that Hussene knows how to capture the beauty of you, Samita. So that was extremely, that really stuck out, is that we're showcasing a very beautiful woman who's going to be let down, and so there was a true arc there for you. And then the other thing that I mentioned about the second film was the lighting. I thought was just exceptional. And Hussene, you have that great apartment. You have all that natural light that comes in those big windows, and so and you've got the white walls, and it's like it's just built for great lighting. So anything you film there is just you don't need obviously any extra lights, because you have this great natural light. So it was lit extremely well. And I love the story. It was very sad, but I mean, I love the story. And then I love seeing how well you captured the beauty of Samita. So those are my basic comments. I did take some notes, and so those, I think I got everything.
I'm wondering if I should respond to the beauty. Beauty is in the eye of the beholder. But so much of it is also art and co-creation. So yeah, co-creation of that art and the story. So, and the authenticity that we initially talked about. But yeah, thank you, Bob, for all your positive thoughts.
Well, they were both very well done, so I enjoyed them both.
Yes, thank you, Bob.
Yeah, I think also, like, for me, like, just when you said that was like 3 years ago, and I was like, wow, 3 years already. And then just like, because I know each of these actors, knowing what Jean Miguel is doing now, like he's on his thing, knowing what Virginia is doing now, and not knowing what Daniel is doing now, because I never heard from him after that film. And also Luis, I think we just a couple of times afterwards we had a chat, but it's really interesting, like the characters in that film, how they interact outside of the film and in real life as well. Like, I think, as you know, Samita, during the film, João Miguel was really drinking those vodka shots.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh.
So trying to
Wow.
to direct him was it was an interesting experience, especially when we had to do that quite a few times.
A true method actor, yeah.
Yeah, but the issue was that we had to do that first scene about 6 times, so he had 6 shots on an empty stomach.
Oh my God. Wow.
And
I was going to ask, the guy who played guitar, was that song, did he write that song by any chance, or was that like an original, or is that a song that...
It's
No.
just like alhamdulillah means like a thank you in Arabic. It's like a religious term.
which was also in his native language, or a language that he is familiar with, and so that was another multilingual aspect that you got to incorporate, Hussene.
Yeah, and I think what's very good about that film is that in a way we got all these, as Bob mentioned, these artists with different talents. But I think even people that are not interested in dance could still relate to that idea of someone pursuing their dream and their dream failing. And I think that is a message which takes it out of the realm of dance and art and takes it into the realm of real life, because you can be you can be going for something. Let's say you want to try to be a pianist, and you try all your best, and then you put all that effort in, and you didn't manage to become a successful pianist. So I think there's a lot of people can relate to that in their everyday lives, or you pursue a career and your career didn't take off the way you expected it. So I think that's a lot of, and I think that theme is also similar to Windows as well. Okay, so we have a lady who's being stood up, but okay, it's a lady who has a dream of being with somebody perhaps, and that dream doesn't work out, but the window of opportunity is still there, and the doors of opportunity just needs to be open. So I think that sort of message by the film can link to those two films.
Yeah, and that character was able to reverse the conditions that were resisting her. Whether it was her personal life, it could be her personal dreams or her professional career, but she was able to reverse the condition. And I think that's what's very important, even during a social justice cause. Like, we have to be self-motivated to rise above and turn an adversity into an opportunity. So that's very powerful. And now we have a prequel, which we never planned, but during my last visit to Lisbon, which is very much home to me always, I travel between 3 countries, which is Mumbai, in India, Lisbon, Portugal, and Toronto, Canada. So I'm very much like Bob. So I have a home everywhere. But now we have a prequel. And do you want to talk about it a little bit, about the prequel and what audience can expect?
Yes, I think it's a very interesting film as well. I think it's the final production is also very different in the way that it's more like a theater piece, as well as being a short film. And it's one of those things where you can tie these 3 films together if you want, and you can also watch it as a standalone. And this prequel, it's different from the others, and it also ends on a nice uplifting tone as well, and some amazing performances. When I look at those, I finished the edit. Actually, I've just finished today. I made the big final version in the big size, and I watched it today for the first time. Not like the short version, like the main thing. And I was just like, I came away and I went out to do whatever, and I was just thinking of such powerful performances from several of the actors, pretty much most of the actors in there. Really like powerful performances that you think about afterwards, and there's like just like some expressions in those films you just stay in your mind, and it's like, wow. And it's very, very inspirational as well. But also Windows is inspirational as well, in the way that, for example, you have, let's say I'm in the audience and I'm someone who would get mentally destroyed by rejection, but then I have an example of someone on screen who was things didn't turn out. You could classify that perhaps as a rejection, but she's back on her feet and she's out of the door. And I think that's inspirational to the audience. It's like saying, okay, if something goes wrong, if things don't turn out as planned, but don't get disheartened, follow my lead and do what I'm doing. I'm getting out there and I'm continuing. I think that's very inspirational.
Yeah, and of course we'll get to celebrate the prequel within the dawn of the new year, I guess, which is right around the corner. But yeah, I was also amazed just with the process of filmmaking too. Like, if you think about it, all these films were chronologically shot backwards, actually. Which is sort of happening with my own feature film right now. Like, it was supposed to be just a scene, then turned into a short, then now it's a feature, because there's so much like good footage, good performances, and so much opportunity. And it's all pretty much shot backwards. In the case of the productions that you're having, like the trilogy right now, it's like art reflects life, like we're just, using a lot of life material or where we are in life and using that authentically to make a film, and it's very co-creative. So it just happened, that Derradeiro Passo was the first one, Windows was the second one, and then, the next one is the third one. But really and truly, did you think about that, Hussein? Like they're all like, they're chronologically shot backwards.
Yeah, yeah. I think that's perhaps it's a coincidence, but even like for example, it's great that we have like a trilogy there, but it's like they're even standalone films as well.
Yeah,
Like
yeah.
you see one, and then like you see, oh, hold on a second. It's like if you didn't know that it was a trilogy, you'll see, oh, hold on, the names are the same, the characters are the same. Hold on a second, they both have the same interests. You can link everything. Wow! So even if you didn't know they were a trilogy, you could watch them and you think, wow, you can know that they're interconnected.
Yeah, yeah. And also, I really liked how you pronounced the theatrical part. And lately, I've been telling people about short films, and it's very difficult for people to understand the essence of short films. I know how valuable it is, and it's very sustainable. It's educational. It's accessible, not only to viewers but also to actors performing in it. But recently, I started to compare short films with theater. I said, it's just like theater.
Yeah,
um, so, I mean, it's different in the sense of the use of camera and how you perform for the camera. So I think actors would be very conscious of that. Like, how do they perform for theater as opposed to film? But when it comes to viewership, that's I see a lot of overlaps there, in terms of storytelling. And I think it's good to break generic forms and to sort of merge them, which is what you're sort of doing in your, next film. So I liked that, you
yeah,
know,
yeah.
questioning of the generic boundaries.
Exactly. Why does a short film have to be like that? So this prequel, which is called Butterfly, it was just in edit, and I was just like looking at the footage, and I thought, wow, this is like if you're going to the theater, and it's very similar to that sort of style. And I was thinking, well, why does a film have to be a short film? Why can a short film not be a theater? So that's why we have, without giving much two way about the film, it's yeah, the way it comes out on the screen, it was like, wow, as if I was in the West End and watching a theater from there. So I think it's very interesting in that concept, which is something completely different from what I've done before, which is also
Yes. So
good.
apart from the fact that the films carry an educational message, a social message, an inspirational message, I feel you know there is like a particular message for arts education too, for film education. Like, okay, how to play with generic forms, right? Um, so yeah, that's something to ponder about and something to be excited about. So I'm very excited about that film, of course. And so I'm looking forward to seeing the final version and, of course, sharing with everybody.
Yeah.
Can't wait to see it.
Yeah, it's going to be soon, I guess. So yeah, I think they're just like some final steps to consider. I also want to write a little bit about it, just like I wrote about Windows. This is something I don't get to talk about a lot, but I did a little press kit for Windows, just to have it handy for people who want to read in advance, or they want to take the message of the film further. But yeah, I would like to think about certain social contexts, like I did for Windows, for example. Um, like in the case of Windows, I actually thought about, okay, the Bengali context, the history of Bengal, and something that I would like to remember and mention, that the 9,000 plus viewership that we had was primarily in West Bengal of India, and it was during a very contested time. So when I started streaming that film, it was for over a month I streamed, and that's how the viewership happened. It was in a very contested time. There was there was a criminal case happening in Calcutta. I'm not sure if a lot of people would know, but a female doctor, was raped and she was murdered at a hospital. And a lot of assaults happen, but I think the nation got very agitated when this criminal case happened to a doctor at a hospital. And so I wasn't sure how people are going to respond, because when I shared that film, it was exactly at that time. And people are protesting, they're doing vigils, and but then I have, you know, an inspirational film, not necessarily for entertainment, but also for hope. And I think that's also very important for the activist cause. So it was very promising to see the viewership of Windows, because it was in a very contested time. And I feel that's something we also need to always remember, that if we have a dream, we need to have hope for that too. Otherwise, change won't happen. So that was reassuring, I would say.
Samita, may I? Did you have some reactions to Windows from people who were seeing from India, for example?
Yeah, they were all positive reactions.
Yeah.
Yeah, they were all positive. Yeah, I didn't know what to
Oh.
expect. I was a bit nervous, but they were all positive. Yeah.
Considering the context and the message, I'm wondering if there were many people, many women see themselves in that position, in needing something to change anything in their lives, and turn the something that they needed to change in their life and get another opportunity that had some importance, and in that particular context.
Yeah, thank you, Anna. Because I didn't plan the timing
Yeah,
of
yeah,
the
yeah.
release of the film. It was coincidental that this crime happened at the same time. And there was another crime happening in Bangladesh, a different kind. So there were two Bengali regions that were highly affected and had high degree of protest. I think it's important to show strong women and men. It's very important to see that. I think that's where representation has a very important function. It has a social responsibility. We need to see strong women and men out there. Just because there is crime happening doesn't mean that we're going to act out of fear, which happened to many people that I know. They became more fearful, and they were actually advocating for more conservative policies and practices, hold back. And I'm more on the progressive side, and I want to see more people going out there and pursuing their dreams. Just because of several criminal cases that happen around the world, it's not just there, it's happening all the time. My festival gets a lot of submissions too on social justice. Is happening all around the world, but that's not a reason for us to hold back. It's an opportunity for us to move forward. So thank you for the question, Anna. That's what I got out, and the positive reactions made me felt reassured to move forward. Not just with our own personal projects or artistic work, but just even socially.
May I do another question?
Yes, please.
Sorry. About the last step, the actors, I don't know anyone but Samita. Any of the actors at any point of their lives experience that type of social that kind of social problems that the film points out, like xenophobia or harassment or any of the that kind of dark feelings of that the film shows and questions about things that happens. Any of the actors experience that kind of approach? In that case, the owner of the art school approached them in the film. I don't know if they shared something or if they experience just a question because they may feel connected with the story they have to represent, but thinking about that, okay, this may happen in my real life. I don't know if someone of them has experienced something like that, like someone that treated them like that guy treated.
Yeah, this
Hussein,
happens
Samita?
sometimes. Hussein, are you aware?
Well, I think what happens is that it's a question: do people speak out about it? I think for the past week I've been hearing about the American rap star who's having several legal issues, and the problem is that nobody talked about it, and suddenly one person said something, and now they've got a hotline, and like from one person they got like 10,000 people who are complaining, for example. So I think it's one of those things where whether it's racism or sexism or sexual harassment, I think it's one of those things which people don't necessarily talk about openly. So I think that I would say that everyone has experienced it in some way and form, but not everybody has talked about it explicitly. I think it's one of those things which some people will just like say, okay, let's put a brave face on it, or let's be stoic and let's just not say anything about it. So I think it's something which everyone has experienced, not only the actors, but everybody. And not everybody talks about it, which is something which is good because we've got a short film which shows that this is happening. Although I think the message in the film was that the actor in question, he wasn't doing that because that was who he was. He was doing that because he wanted everybody to leave the school, because the truth is that it wasn't sustainable business because he didn't have any students. And at the end, in his voiceover at the end of the film, that's like the reveal, was that behavior that he had during the film was not because he was like that. He wanted to portray the image to the people, those teachers, that he was like that because he wanted them to feel that he was responsible for the failure. He didn't want them to give up on being a teacher just because he wasn't able to make it happen for them. He wanted the guitar player to understand, okay, you're leaving because I'm racist. He wanted the dancer to leave because he's sexist. But those were just roles that he was portraying because the real reason was that he couldn't make it happen. And he was trying to protect those teachers in a way so that go and pursue your dream. And he didn't want them to lose faith. So I think it's like an anti-hero becoming a hero when you go through the final voiceover at the end, and you think about it and you're like, whoa, that wasn't who he was.
Yeah. So that's very powerful to see the other side of the story. In real life, I have faced all kinds of discrimination. They weren't criminal acts, but at the same time, I think this applies to everybody. I think most people, they experience some sort of inequality at a very minor level. But one doesn't have to be a victim of a crime to speak out. And I think that's where actors, they do take a lot of social responsibility to represent what's happening out there, or presenting different points of views. And to do that, Bob, as an actor and also as an improv teacher in the past that it takes a lot of empathy to do that. So even if they haven't directly experienced any social cause, they just observed, they use a lot of empathy. Before we sign off today, Bob, do you want to talk about empathy in acting in general, which you do perform very well?
Empathy in terms of the acting business, or I don't, or
The acting skill.
acting skill.
Yeah.
Well, I think it does. I think it does help to have gone through certain experiences when you're an actor, when you're going to play a role, and if you've somehow had some of that happen in your life, I think that it can definitely add to the way that you bring the character into life, into the film. I don't know that it's always necessary, but I do think that actors who have had a lot of basic life experiences and a lot of ups and a lot of downs, especially a lot of downs, I do think that that does make a difference in terms of your ability to be able to communicate that and to make that seem real. So yeah, I think I think that's something that as we get older, we obviously have had more years to have experiences that shape us and affect us as actors. So, but the question that I had thought about, kind of with Anna, with kind of what you were saying, when did you have these in mind, Hussein? That let's have someone who was being sexually harassed, and let's have somebody who would experience homophobia. Did you, or did the actors themselves come to you and say, "Here, I'd like to bring each of these issues into the film," or was it just discussed amongst you as a group? How did you decide the issues that were going to be brought forth with the actors?
I think I think we had a meeting on a Friday night, and we just started filming on the Saturday morning, and everything just sort of came together. Everyone has their input, and all of these things are improvised as well. So I thought it just sort of like came up, and it just like the idea just developed, and it wasn't anything that I had in mind. As you know, always give a lot of freedom to all the actors to come up with the ideas, and it's just something that came up. Do you remember how that happened, Samita?
Yeah, first of all, I proudly say that it was part of a 48-hour film festival, which shows how constrained we were with time. And in a very short time, we just responded. So I think a lot came from our own experience or observation. So in my case, I think I advocated for sexism and, voicing against sexism. As far as I remember, I probably said that, like, okay, my character will face sexual harassment and she has to walk away from it, like everybody else has to. So yeah, and it was very, very co-creative. And I think we gave a lot of time. I mean, the story writing didn't happen overnight. We took a lot of time on the Saturday morning to a good 2-3 hours. And given how constrained we were with the shoot, because you had to edit the whole film the following night and deliver, with a poster. So we did spend quite a bit of extra time on the storytelling. And I remember João, he was also going back and forth with a lot of ideas, So, and then at one point we had to, just start shooting, right? Because we could go on and on with, how perfect the story can be. But I think we came up with something very, very punchy. It's very impressive. That's what I feel. And it was quite authentic.
Yeah, and I think even like on the Sunday, I think when we finished the final edits, we were still going through a few things, and we were doing the voiceover as well, which I think Louise wrote, because Louise is a poet, and João gave the voiceover, and it just came together. And then it was like Virginia, who was like giving some ideas about the the edit and stuff. It just came out at the end. It was like, wow. And I think I even watched it, and literally I was crying myself right in the film. It was just so meaningful. It was just such a touching film, and it was really amazing.
Yeah, and I'm very proud and honored that we got to celebrate the 3rd anniversary, and may we celebrate many more anniversaries of this film, along with Windows and the prequel, which will happen very, very soon. And any final thoughts before we sign off? I know Bob is, what time it is now in Istanbul? Is it past 10?
10:13.
10:13. Okay, so we can start winding down. Any final thoughts before we sign off today?
No, thank you for putting this viewing together, Samita. It was really good to see these films and also discuss them and see how people interpreted them and their analysis of the film. So thanks for putting it together.
It's my honor and pleasure. Anna?
Thank you for putting me in contact with the amazing people that start and make these beautiful works, and allowing me to make some questions and knowing better what you did and share some thoughts. And thank you for letting me celebrate these remarkable works and period with you. Thank you.
Yeah, your questions did make me think. I think I'm going to ponder on the questions and the reflections even after the talk, because it gives a lot of vision and directions overall on how to co-create, how to tell more and more, pressing stories, right? So it has been a learning experience so far. Bob, any final thought before we meet in person?
Thank you for making me a part of it. I really appreciate that. And I don't know, I love being able to stay connected with my Lisbon family, and Hussene and Samita. You're two of my favorite Lisbon people that I've been along with. And I just congratulate everyone who had anything to do with any of both of those films, because great performances, great behind the scenes work, and I think it's something that you guys especially should feel really good about.
Thank you. So I guess that's the thought that I'm going to walk away with today. It's Sunday afternoon here. I don't know if I mentioned which city I'm logging in from. It's Toronto. So at the moment I'm here, and I'll be flying to Lisbon in January. And so I'll be seeing
you then.
What was that?
See you then.
Yes, see you then, and we'll stay in touch till we meet.
Sounds good.
So have a wonderful end to Sunday, and we'll talk soon. Thank you so much for being here.
Okay, have a great week, everybody.
Bye.
Yeah, bye.
Bye.